Unpacking life. So this next section is going to be about unpacking life. You know, we've all sort of heard the jokes about, in psychology, about having baggage, and everybody has their baggage and issues. And we do. We all have baggage that we carry around with us. Now, some of our baggage is good things and positive things that we want to keep in our suitcase and continue to bring along life with us. But we all have things in our suitcase, baggage, that are things that we don't want to bring along with us, that we want to try to get rid of, that we want to try to chuck out. But we're having a hard time either identifying those things, or if we've identified them, getting rid of them. Even if you look at Jesus, you know, his life, I mean, he could have been perceived as being an illegitimate child, born with, to parents that were very young, and they were, migrating and in a country where they were taken over and they were servants, and born into poverty and had to move to another place at a young time in life and escape. We all have baggage, and we all have issues that we're dealing with. And what we're going to try to do in this section is take a look at life, how we've got to this point, and what parts of our life have been good, have been beneficial to us to make us who we are in a positive way, but what parts haven't been so good, areas of life that have been destructive to us, things that we carry around with us still that are wounds or hurts or misperceptions or distortions that have interfered with our functioning. Every good story has a beginning, middle, and end. Well, here we are in this story, and the story of your life, and we're in the middle of the story. We're not at the end of your life, hopefully, but we're not at the beginning either. So we have to go back and figure out, well, what was the beginning of your story? In order to understand where you are now, it's like a movie. If we jump in the middle of the movie and we look at a frame in the middle of the movie, it's hard for us to understand what that frame is really about. So if I'm watching a movie and I jump right in the middle and I see a frame that has a bunch of people dressed in camouflage fatigues, I don't really know whether that's an army movie, whether that's a Halloween movie and people are dressed up in that kind of costume, or whether it's a movie about high schoolers and that's the latest high school fashion fad. I only really understand and can interpret that frame in the middle of the movie if I've seen the beginning of the movie and all the parts that led up to that frame. Now I can really understand that frame for all it's worth and all it's meant to represent, and then I have a better chance of understanding where this movie is going to go and how it's going to play out. Well, that's the same way with life. We're jumping in right now at this frame of your life. But in order to understand this frame and get some context for it and figure out how you got here, we need to look back at the rest of the movie, the rest of your life. And that's what we're going to try to do, is unpack the rest of your life so we can, from the very beginning, sort out how we got to this frame. What is the information, what are the things that have formed who you are that have gotten you to this point in your life. In the beginning, we talked about those change elements that are real important. Is change possible? What's my goal? What's the strategy? Where am I starting from was one of those important elements. So what we're going to do in this part of unpacking life is take a look at, well, where am I starting from? In order to implement the strategy that we're going to talk about later, I need to understand, well, where am I starting from for the strategy to work for me? And to understand where I'm starting from, we're taking a look at, from my beginning, when I was born and to this frame of life, what's happened in my life? What are the things that have impacted me, that have affected me? Both things that have acted upon me and choices I've made to respond to life. That's going to help me understand where I'm at right now, where I'm starting from, and that's one of those important elements when we look at those elements of change. In my private practice, one of the things I do whenever a person calls me and we arrange for an evaluation, I send them a list of questions that I want them to answer. And the last one of these 8 things I usually send out is a very important one I call the lifeline. So it's a timeline of their life I want them to fill out for me that starts from as far back as they can remember up to the present time of what are the events, situations, people, things that have occurred in their life, that have acted upon them, that have come into their life, that have affected who they are, how they respond to life, how they view life, that shaped how they view other people, and have shaped who they are. Could be positive things, could be negative things. I ask them to write down all the things that they can remember from as far back as they can recall, and to try to bring in their parents into the process to fill in some of those gaps in childhood, even to the idea of, were you a wanted child? Were you a mistake, so to speak? Was everything okay during the pregnancy? Were you born premature? Sometimes that has a significant effect on how parents parent. If you were an at-risk child, if you had developmental milestones that were maybe behind or were ahead, a lot of those things affect how then people treat you and respond to you. And then all the different things of childhood. And that lifeline that people create is just a very significant exercise that almost every patient says this was just an incredible opportunity for them to take a look at who they were, what happened back in their childhood, and helps them understand who they are now. That those things that occurred didn't occur randomly. There was some rhyme and reason to it, and who they are now didn't happen randomly. That it shows cause and effect of what happened early in our life, shapes our lenses, how we view things, and it has dramatic impact on the decisions that we make now and who we are now. And an important part of understanding the change process and being able to change is the understanding of cause and effect. The idea that nothing is random. There's cause and effect, both cause and effect from God and cause and effect of things that we do. And it's important to understand that so that we can start to make decisions now that are going to have a cause and effect on who we become and those goals that are within reach for us to attain, how to make them really within our reach and attainable for us. A lot of times people are concerned as they look back at their past and they're trying to figure out who they are now, and as they understand psychology, there's those classic questions about, well, what was your mother like and what was your father like, and they look at it as parent bashing. And by no means are we here to bash parents. This is not about parent bashing. This is not about finding fault with parents and sticking the finger at them and pointing them and blaming them. Parents come into our lives, and parents aren't perfect. My parents weren't perfect. I'm a parent of 3 daughters, and I'm not perfect. My wife isn't perfect. We all make mistakes in the process of parenting. It's a very complicated, complex task that we're called upon to do that has great, wondrous celebration and benefits to it, but it has some difficulties and struggles associated with it. So we're not here to bash parents. We're not here to look for excuses that explain some of our dysfunction, some of our difficulties, some of our poor decisions that we make. But we are here to try to explain and understand the decisions that we make. And by looking back, by understanding what sort of happened in our early childhood and early adult life, we get an understanding as to how we've developed the lenses that we see life through now, and who we are now and the decisions that we're making now. So we're not looking for excuses, we're looking to explain. Our parents, as children, it's hard for us to interpret life or translate the events of life accurately. We're immature, we don't have much intellectual maturity, psychological understanding, emotional, relational, spiritual understanding. So as things happen to us, we don't really know what context to put them in. We rely on people in our life to interpret those situations or to translate what the heck is going on in those situations to us. So if I'm a 5-year-old on the playground and somebody calls me an idiot, as a 5-year-old, I don't really know how to deal with that. I don't know how to understand that. Are they just mad at life? Are their parents getting divorced? Are they a bully? Or did I really do something dumb? Am I really a stupid person? Am I really an idiot? Ideally, parents, teachers, maybe other classmates come along to help interpret that particular situation for me so I understand it. In our life, our parents really in those first 8, 12, 15 years of life are our main interpreters or translators of life for us. So as we look back, they certainly play a key role in that process, but we're not here to bash them. So I want you to feel comfortable that we're looking for explanations, we're looking to understand, we're looking to uncover the facts, not looking to bash or to point fingers or look for excuses. Unpacking life is going to take some significant time. We're going to look through a bunch of different sections here, prompts I'm going to give you to help you look back at your life in different phases and using different lenses to sort of view your life and to dig into some of the elements of your life a little bit deeper to help you understand